everyone, how are you? Okay, so this video is about overplaying, like, well, not how to overplay, but more sort of like remedies to stop you from overplaying. Now in the guitar community, overplaying seems to have been praised for a long time. You know, the whole more is more philosophy. But if you're doing that, you're not actually listening to what you're doing. You're just going through muscle memory noodling, and you're not listening to what you're playing, and you're not listening to what the music wants, or what the rest of the group is doing. You're not putting meaningful space into what you're doing. The weightings of your notes isn't necessarily even. You're just going blah, 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 blah. Right, you know, because obviously, like you know, the pressures of, you know, YouTube Shorts or Instagram or whatever it is, and you've just got like a minute to impress somebody. The idea is, oh, let's shoehorn as many licks in this video as I can, and so I want to give you some remedies. So actually, you know, about, you know, give you some space, and perhaps start learning about underplaying. You know, so that you know, so that your listener or your audience can actually use their imagination, and excuse me. So I want to start out with, you know, with this it's a classical piece, you know, by Jean-Claude Debussy. You probably know it, but it's called, see if I can get it pronounced right, Prelude après de midi d'un fort. Basically, it's sort of like it's the afternoon of a faun. It translates as the afternoon of a faun. The idea is that there's faun somewhere in a forest somewhere, and he's got this magic flute, and he's using it to seduce people, like, particularly like sort of beautiful young other fauns or nymphs or whatever. So if you're after a start, you know, if you're overplaying, you're not going to seduce anybody. You know, it's going to sound like a bloody awful noise, isn't it? I mean, it might do anyway, but the idea is that, you know, if you're scaling back and like learn to, you know, where the actual richness is in the notes that you've got, you're going to get a lot more out of it. So so we'll start with this phrase, and I'll post a link to it below. I mean, when the first time I heard of it, I thought, this is a really stunning piece of music. And I used to know a flautist when I was at school. You know, when I was in the school orchestra, and she would like play it as like a warm-up piece. I mean, she was a few years older than I was, and a lot more advanced as well. And I think obviously went on to study music at university or what have you. But yeah, because it's all like chromatically based, she would use it like a warm-up piece. You know, just to actually, you know, apart from just like, you know, warming herself up, but, you know, like getting the weightings on the notes and creating the space, and just relaxing into it. So we're in a bit of an odd key for guitarists. We're in C minor, but I'm playing it here. Yeah, so that after that's played through, and then there's a position shift. Now you can play it here. So you notice, because that's chromatic, you know, rather than just doing the usual, all right, improving your shredding. Ooh. you know, whatever that is. I mean, that's the mess. That is a mess. But this, there's a bit more thought in it, because like, yeah, because I mean, like, I'll post a link below, but like there's a version where with Leonard Bernstein conducting, and the flautist, she actually holds that note. You know, even though it's written in quavers, she actually holds that opening note for almost like a count of 5. It's in 9/8, which is also a bit weird. So not only is it in an odd key signature, we're in C minor, but it's in 9/8, and it's in a 9/8, which is kind of like a largo as well. You know, so it's like, it's quite slow. And the way that like Bernstein's conducting it as well, there's a bit of, you know, like a bit of rubato in there. So it's just you know, once you've actually started to shape the piece, you get this sort of, you know, this idea of this whole other world, and you're being drawn in, you're being seduced by this magical music, you know, and that's kind of more what we want to be creating, isn't it? Surely, you know, it's one thing showing off all this technical stuff I can do, but the more experience you get, the more it's, you know, it's about moving beyond your technique, and sort of I always think, you know, like creating worlds, you know, creating pictures, you know, like we're writing tone poems here, so we're, you know, it's whatever the audience can imagine. I mean, maybe you imagine something else when you listen to it, but you know, so that's the first one. There's another one which is like with the Bach, you know, from the well-tempered clavier, and the Prelude number 1. Now, the way I play it. Now, there's a big temptation to want to play that as fast as you can. But if you slow it down, and you know, am I playing the weighting on those notes evenly? Yeah. Yeah. And so on. But you see, the more you practice that, the more you can sort of think like, well, which note do I want to emphasise? Do I want to emphasise the 1? Or even the 2? Yeah, so that's another exercise that we can do. There's another good one as well, which is like, you know, no backing tracks, no metronome. You just put some chords down. Just and this is like probably my favourite chord. This shape. And then once we've found that space, then we can start articulating. So sort of think about, you know, well, what can I actually get once I put those chords down? What can I actually get out of those voicings? You know, what am I trying to say? And then another idea as well might be to just you know, just that once we've like been listening to some music, or once you are warmed up a bit more, it's to just like that, just put some ideas down. You see, that way, when we leave in space like that, it means that when there is actually a burst, that once there is actually a burst like that, it's more effective. I also was thinking of don't know if you remember Spitting Image. It used to be this like sort of political satire, like these puppet sort of caricatures of like famous people on TV or politicians or whatever. And there's one, they always used to do this sports commentator called David Coleman, and there was one where like he's like spoofing, like he's commenting on like the 1500 meters, which is like is it 1500 meters or 1600 meters? I'm not sure, but it's like it's so many laps of like the track, and then always like like on these sports commentaries, on the last lap, the sports commentator gets really worked up. Oh yes, and it's so and so in the lead, blah 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 blah. But in this particular sketch, he hadn't he'd missed a lap. So he's going, oh no, I've got myself excited too quickly. Oh, and then he ends up exploding because, like, by the end of it, when they have reached the last lap, he can't get any faster. You see what I mean? So it's the same kind of reason, okay, same kind of reasoning that that if you're leaving space and not playing so much, scaling back on what you're doing as well, and a lot of the music, rather than thinking more in sort of like, oh, I'll put some tapping licks in here, and I'll do that fancy sweep thing here as well, and then and then I'll do this, and the problem with that is that it's coming more from like technique and muscle memory than it's coming from sort of like like from here or here. You're not paying attention to the music as it's being formed. And also, like, I mean, obviously, I can't demonstrate that today, but when you're in a group situation, if you're listening to what's going on, like, what's the drummer doing, what's the bass player doing, are you actually, is there a symbiosis between you? As if you're playing live, how's the audience responding to what you're doing? Are they enjoying what you're doing, or I mean, I remember also, like years ago, there's a violinist called Tasmin Little. I'm not sure if she's Dame Tasmin Little now, but she was talking about playing the the Vaughan Williams, the Lark Ascending, and there's this bit at the end where it's going, the violin part's going higher and higher, but it's such a moving piece of music that she was getting carried away. As she's playing it, she's in this almost like this trance-like state, because it's almost like a Vulcan mind meld where you're sort of linked into this other world, and it actually, when she stopped playing, it took her a moment to come out of it, and like the audience, she could tell, that they were sort of moved, enthralled, entertained, all the rest of it. And it wasn't, in that case, it wasn't all about, hey, look at me, I'm a cool violinist. It was more about, well, what, scaling back and finding what the music wanted at that time, what the interpretation wanted at that time, etc., etc. So so I hope you got something out of this, because it's one of those things that, you know, it comes with experience. Because so much of it is about, you know, learning all these fancy techniques, and of course once you've learned something new, you want to be using it all. You know, oh gosh, look at this thing I learned, and then after a while you kind of like forget who you are. You know, you're forgetting like the humanity of the music, and the healing, and the healing property of music. Yeah, certainly, and the spiritual property of music as well. You know, because it is like a quasi religious experience. You know, playing and listening to music. You know, because you're connecting to this other realm, this other world. So, and one final thing is as well is record yourself. I mean, you don't necessarily have to video. Well, video would be good, but if you record yourself playing, I mean, this is something I got from there's a cellist called Lynn Harrell. It's actually a he, not a she. You know, even though in England Lynn is more of a female name, but what he would do, he would listen to like an opera singer. I mean, he's a cellist. You know, he'd listen to an opera singer and say, "Oh, that's beautiful," and so he'd then sort of like transcribe what she was singing, and then he'd have a go at playing it on the cello, play it back, and if it sounded rubbish, or if it sounded, oh, that's awful, that's not moving at all, you try and understand, well, what is it that made that singer, what is it that made her so powerful and so moving in what she was doing, and how do you replicate that, you know, as an instrumentalist, you know, you know, I mean, you're part of it, you know, obviously about leaving space, you know, because like if you're a singer, you're having to breathe, so you're having to, sooner or later you're going to have to come up for air, aren't you? So it's about putting, you know, it's about learning about, you know, putting in those natural spaces and those natural phrasing. So yeah, so record yourself. That's probably like the final hint I want to give for this afternoon. Okay, that's it for today, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Welcome to all the new subscribers as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.